Maybe I should have kept it enabled or something. Laggy, laggy, laggy. We are still lagging behind. See, that's your character? Oh, actually looks pretty good. Alright, let's see another video about Dragon Age before I play the game. Let's see other people's opinion and what they think about this game. So about Dragon Age, I have thoughts.
Well, everyone, here
What
we
kind of
are.
thoughts?
Dragon Age the Veilguard is officially out, and it actually seems to be doing pretty well. It is currently the middle of a workday, and yet they've got 69,000 concurrent players on Steam,
Ooh.
which is a really solid number. I know for a fact my wife and several other people that are in my direct friend circle are currently playing on PS5. So there's a lot of people checking out the game and trying it, and
the game definitely looks good. You know, this is not an open world game, so that is that. So if you are an open world person, probably this game not gonna fill you on that.
I am one of them, so let's talk about it. So
But
I want to run
still.
through the game itself. I want to talk about that.
The sure as hell looks good.
I want to share some thoughts because this is an older save file. I've been playing the game all day, so we'll be like bouncing around to a few different save files that I have for the first few hours of the game. We'll talk about the gameplay, the writing, most importantly, because that's kind of where my biggest note is. Then we'll kind of wrap it up with whether I think this is worth checking out. But first, of course, a huge thank you to our sponsor, Incogni. It's no mystery on the internet. You got to protect your data, and this time of year, especially in an election season, there's all sorts of cold callers, robocallers, all of the callers. They somehow find your phone number every single time, and it drives you crazy, drives me crazy. That's why I use Incogni. All of that rhymed. Pretty cool, right? So stupid. You see, Incogni goes to all of these websites that typically collect your information from public databases, voter records, all of that stuff, and then it automatically sends the requests for the data to be taken down, so you don't have to do any of it. And they'll even follow up with those companies multiple times to make sure your data is removed. And you can see they'll also add you to suppression lists. That way your information doesn't end up on there again. And this is hugely helpful whether you are a YouTuber, streamer, or if you're just somebody that doesn't want your phone number or email address out there for anybody to get. Incogni wipes all of that data from the internet if you don't want it to be there, and they save you a ton of time in the process. On average, as you can see, for me to file each of these requests manually, it would have taken me about 125 hours of work. But using Incogni's automated tools, I don't have to have a single thought about it. I set it up once, forget about it, and it does everything for me. So start protecting your data and information today, because it's all you got. Go to the link in the description box below. Make sure to use my code Luke Stevens at checkout to save 60% off of an annual plan. Again, you'll set it up, you won't have to think about it again, and then for the full year, it's just removing your data constantly from those scummy websites that do that. It's amazing. It's a godsend, and I'm not joking. Since I signed up for it myself out of my own pocket, I've had my wife sign up for it, my siblings sign up for it. It's that good, and we're no longer getting those robocalls or any of those weird telemarketing calls or pollster calls or anything. Our data is protected and is removed from all of that. It's been amazing, and I can't recommend them enough. Again, check them out at the link in the video description box below. Okay, but now that we're back in it, this is a sequence that we've all already seen. This was shown off at Summer Game Fest, and they released it shortly thereafter, the first hour or so of the game. And it is extremely high production value. They definitely put a lot of time and polish into it. I mean, the game looks really good. I don't think anybody's going to...
Yeah, that's the good part about this game. The game looks good and it runs surprisingly well. Even though it annihilates your CPU, but still, it is doing what it is doing, and it makes the game
They've done a really good job on a mechanical level of enhancing the graphics, hair sim, all of that. Lip sync leaves a bit to be desired. Some people don't like the art style of the way that the characters look. That's fine. That's just a matter of personal taste. But I think on an engine level, it's pretty impressive. And the game is very, very well optimized, which is nice to see as well. I will note some people on Steam have said that they've had problems with crashes during the initial shader compilation. It seems like a lot of that has to do with whether you have your chipset drivers and your graphics drivers fully updated. So if you are experiencing those issues, consider checking that. Now, one thing I will say is that I think that this game actually, funnily enough, plays much closer to like Fallout 4 than it does to Dragon Age Inquisition or Dragon Age Origins, certainly. And that is kind of surprising to me because at the preview event, they certainly were trying to lean into comparisons to like Baldur's Gate a little bit. They wanted you to think that this is like,
hey, that doesn't make any sense though. If you were comparing this game to Fallout 4, Fallout 4 isn't the Fallout 4 is an open world game. This game is not an open world game at all. And Fallout 4 has a better story. What?
a big epic RPG with a ton of
Just because you have to say something doesn't mean you can just say random stuff. That's like a completely different genre, isn't it? Like Fallout 4 is like a sci-fi survival something, right? How would you say that game and this game is the same game? Well, that doesn't make any sense. That comparison doesn't even hold up. I think the games you should actually compare this game with is probably Witcher 3, Dragon's Dogma. What else is that? Metaphor Fantasia, because that game is also a fantasy game.
nuance in
Something like that. Fallout is just the least samey game for you to compare with.
all of the different ways that you can approach situations.
Maybe he's talking about the roleplay aspects, but it's not in depth as Fallout 4. I can tell you that much.
And characters and stuff, and just transparently, that's it. It really just doesn't seem like that's the case. There are consequences to be found. There are times where you'll be challenged to make a decision. There are consequences.
The best part about this game,
all of the different ways that you can approach
the only redeeming
situations
factor
and
of this
characters
game,
and
these two guys, that's it. None of the any other characters is even remotely good.
stuff. And just transparently, that's it. It really just doesn't seem like that's the
These
case.
two
There
are the
are
best characters in the
consequences to
game.
be found. There are times where you'll be challenged to make a decision, kill this character or save them, or destroy this place but save that place, or vice versa. So there is stuff like that, but a lot of the nitty-gritty consequence happens off screen. You don't really see it, and it usually happens at the end of a quest line. So like if you choose to have a character live or die, you're probably not going to see them again other than maybe a reference or a line of dialogue after that. For the most part, depending on your choices, like you'll know that made a difference, but it didn't really make a difference for the game moving forward. You know, there's a consequence, but you never really see it or appreciate it, which again is kind of on the same level of role playing as something like Fallout 4, which some people love that game, don't get me wrong. But if you're looking for like a really deep and gritty, meaty role-playing game, I'm not so sure Dragon Age the Veilguard is going to be that game for you. I'm going to keep playing it. Of course, I'm only at this point, you know, I put 7 hours in at the preview event, and I've put like 5 or 6.
I think the best comparison, the recent movie, I think this game is like Venom 3. It just it's a cringy game with the dark aspects to it. That's it.
In it over the course of this afternoon so far, so I'm sure there's plenty of room for it to change.
I think
but that's
this
what
game you play this game to cringe and then have a, you know, it's like a joke. Like you play this game and then laugh at it.
I'm feeling right now.
Laugh at the dialogue,
with that
laugh
said,
at the
I want to
freaking,
just like immediately point out to people that your enjoyment with Dragon Age the Veilguard's combat system, I think, depends a lot on the class you pick. Frankly, the
thank you for the
warrior
biddies.
class
Welcome,
is
guys.
like really solid in the early game. Late game gets
Wait, which class is it
really you pick. Frankly, the warrior class is like really solid in the early game. Late game gets boring as hell. When we played it at the preview event, it was actually really interesting because I had time to test out a late game mage, I got time to test out a late game warrior and a late game rogue, and I was able to see.
And none of you assholes never said the game's lock-on system is busted. Are you serious? None of you assholes didn't say that. Why the fuck do you even go there then? You have to give feedbacks, dude, so they can improve the game. It's not gonna take like forever to fix the lock-on. The soft lock-on in this game is fucking garbage.
Kind of what these different classes had to offer.
Jesus
And
Christ.
frankly,
Do your job right.
a lot of them did not scale the same way. Like Warrior got super boring as the game went on, and Mage was actually
Your job is not to suck the game's developer's dick. Your job is, if you find anything even remotely you think is not good, it's your job as a reviewer or a criticizer to just point it out. That's what you are there for. That's why people watch you for. Like, what are you doing? Oh, it's not that bad. It's gonna work. It's all right. You gotta play a specific class. Like, what are you doing? Did they hire you to defend the game, or did they hire you to review the game? Like, Jesus Christ, dude. I think I kind of have a cold.
good in the
My
late
voice is
game
kinda
and
getting
much
funky.
more interesting than anything else, but only in the late game. Mage early on, like when you're seeing combat right here, is actually one of the weaker offerings and isn't particularly fun
It's
or
so
compelling.
clunky.
But it's at the late game where it scales way better than the other classes. So
Really, I don't feel like that at all. It plays so scuffed.
I do think you need to be intentional with how you pick the class you want to pursue.
I barely do any
Rogue, I would
damage.
say, is like the safest and easiest bet. It's just going to be solid throughout. But Warrior, I think, is going to get real stale after like the 10 to 15 hour mark, it seems. And that's reflected in a lot of the reviews, even the ones that were more negative, where they were saying that later in the game they were lowering the difficulty, they were changing stuff.
This is the soft lock and I'm talking about. Your character looking there, but the mob is over there. Like, look at this. This is the dog shit mechanic. In Elden Ring, your boss will most of the time it will stay here. Yeah.
Because they didn't like the combat system as it increased in like
It sucks. That's why they don't like the combat system. It sucks.
enemy HP and the sponginess.
The menu system, the menu calling system is fucking garbage. It's clunky. And then the lock-on system is trash. The mobs will just giga aggro your ass all the time. You have to most of the time dodge roll. And then for some fucking reason, I don't know why these modern games do this. They don't really give you enough heals. I'm stuck with the 3 heals from the start of the game till now. I think I'm in the mid game now. I haven't been able to upgrade that shit in even once. I don't know why the new games started to do that shit. It's annoying. Let me heal more.
Of enemies. So I think you do need to be very intentional with which class you choose. Beyond that, the
Mm.
elephant in the room that you can see right here is that the levels are much more linear than you might be used to for a game like this, especially coming off of Inquisition. And that is
Yeah,
a very
that's a consequence of having a better graphics. You know, if you want better graphics and then make the game playable, they gotta shrink the level size. Pretty much that's what they did.
intentional change on their part. This is of course made with
Yeah.
Frostbite, which is the same engine that had troubles back in the day with Mass Effect Andromeda, and that game really struggled with scope and scale. Even to a certain extent, Anthem struggled with it too in terms of like
I can give them one good point about this game. They surprisingly made this game run very smooth at launch. I don't know what kind of voodoo magic they did, but they made it work, dude. This game works flawlessly when you launch it. It just compiles the shader when you start the game, and then it just plays the game without a hitch. No problem.
calculating areas.
Which is really rare to say these days, don't you guys think?
So I do
It's a really
think
good
it makes
thing to
sense
point it
why they've
out.
pursued it this way and why they've done it this way. I certainly like big levels. I like open world games, but I don't like bad open worlds. I'd much rather tighter levels that are well done than like poorly done big levels, you know? That's
Yeah, this game doesn't do both of them. It's not an open world that's bad. It's not a closed world that's good either. Correct, Bozo? This guy, I've been fighting this guy forever, man. This guy, you are gonna see this guy a lot.
where I draw the line. That's my
Every elite boss is just this piece of shit.
Expectation. But going back to what I was saying, one of the benefits of the tighter levels and the more linear levels is that you can handcraft many more encounters and like specific puzzles and stuff, and you can justify putting a lot more effort into those little.
What puzzle? Match the symbols and then pick up the crystal and then put it on the box. Is that the puzzle you're talking about? That's the best puzzle I had seen in this game. Like the puzzles in this game. What? That's not even a puzzle. That's just a fetch quest.
Bitty areas because
fetch quest and then match the colors. That's the puzzles these guys come up with. They're innovative puzzles in this game. It's just match the colors and then fetch the freaking crystal.
Don't have to make 1,500 of them. You can make just 15 of them. You know, as long as the scope is kept within check, you can increase the production value and not lose anything. So you see here, I round this corner and there's actually a hidden little story segment that I won't spoil too much. I'll cut away here in a second, but this is something that we even saw at the preview event where if you look around this level enough and you find this little tucked away spot, you can actually experience a narrative sequence that other people just would never see and that they would just totally miss. And to be clear, you can do that in open world games too, but it's much easier to pull it off on the scale and with the production value that they want to pull off in this game when you have it in tighter levels. So
it's not that hard to pull that off. In Elden Ring, if you guys exploring the open world, have you guys noticed there is like a footsteps that just happens on the ground, and then it will just has like a spirit that just walks like aimlessly, and then you follow them, and then he will lead you to a place. How many guys experience that? It's not that hard to pull that off. You just have to put some effort. That's it.
Like a give and a take. It's a trade-off. Maybe some people are gonna love it, some people will hate it, but
I mean, it seems like most of these reviewers really have lower standards from what I'm looking at. Pretty sure this guy is gonna give this game at least a 7.
But it is an interesting shift, I think, and I can understand why some people would just eat it up and love it. Oh, this is one thing that drives me crazy. They have the collect loot button, the same,
and then the jump button on the same binding, so you will just jump randomly like a monkey
as
after
the jump button. So when you find something you want, you just start smashing A, but then you end up jumping around like a dumbass.
Yep, that it is.
I remember when we were at like Summer Games Fest, the big thing that Jeff Keighley does after the big presentation on stage, they do something called Summer Play Days, I think is what they call it, which is basically a chance for media to play previews of games and to hype them up and talk about them, blah, blah, blah. You know, kind of how it goes. Basically what E3 used to be. It's just Jeff Keighley's version. But there, I saw veilguard behind closed doors, and the creative director of the game was playing it. And even when they were playing it, a little sliver in the first like half hour of the game, he was even accidentally jumping while picking up loot. And I remember thinking like, you haven't fixed that? Like after all this time, you've been working on this game for like a decade and that's still a thing. Just reroute the button. And even now you could say like, oh, well, you could just reroute the button yourself as the player. And I'm like, yeah, but like, why should I have to?
Why should I fix the one you fucked it up in the first place?
Shouldn't that be something that was already taken care of? Like, wouldn't you think? It's weird.
Yeah.
It's weird that it's still here as a problem. Now, as
why would you do
trees
that?
and stuff, the way this works is pretty standard. I mean, based on your class, you have different specializations you can pursue. So whether that's Evoker or Death Caller, this is also tied to my background because I'm tied with the Morn Watch, and so it's like a whole thing. But then you also see this down here, which is tied to the crows, of course. And so you have different specializations you can pursue. And beyond that, your companions, you also have like skill trees tied to them. So for this one, you can see Harding has 2 points available. So I can come in here.
It's not that in depth. This is so mediocre.
Can acquire new skills or
not that
specialize
in-depth
into
at all.
different things if I see fit, or I could
Not
pursue any
even
of these
close.
skill trees, and they level up if they are currently
Your
in
party is effectively fucking useless in this game.
party
Like,
traveling
straight up.
with you. So the companions that you do a lot of
Once again, I played Metaphor Fantasia. They did pretty much everything
missions
pretty
with
better than
will
this
level
game.
up faster and more than the other companions that are just sitting back at
The
home
parties
base,
and the
which I think
skills
is a
are
good
more
way to do it.
effective
I
and
think the
good. You can
biggest
actually build a good party and then have a team. And then the team just gig out to shut the
thing for
box.
me that I was hoping would surprise me is the writing, but you'll start to pick up on it pretty quickly. The writing in the game is, I don't know how else to put it other than like really low energy. You know, Skill Up in his review,
It's hilariously bad. It's bad. It's bad to the point. It just makes you laugh. Half the time, I'm just laughing at it.
he said it felt like
It's not making me mad. I'm just not angry at all. It just makes you laugh of how bad it is.
everybody, when they're having
You know?
conversations, feels like HR is in the room. Other people said, I think JV, he said it feels like it was written by folks who have gone to therapy, and that sort of self-care language has seeped into the dialogue. It's not constant, as some folks will suggest, but it is present when talking to companions, and that is not an insignificant amount of dialogue. Therapy language isn't necessary.
It's not that often, but it's there to the point it breaks your immersion. We can take it like that. It's there with that amount that breaks your immersion completely. It feels like you're talking to a random person in Walmart. Walmart are freaking in the streets. That's how it feels like when you're talking to some of these people in the game.
A bad thing. I go to therapy, but at times it does not work for me here. Examples, quote, let's take these problems one day at a time. That's all you can do. Look at the bright side of the situation. That's a win in my book. Let's focus on the real issues. We can't be fighting each other. You are enough. You don't need to prove anything. I think these are excellent messages, things people should hear, but they wear thin and lose meaning if you see them too much. Less of this kind of language would have been better off in my book. And I totally agree. Like, there is a ton of dialogue in this game where it's not how human beings talk to each other. Like, maybe my friend...
Yeah, spot on. That's exactly what I said. Look at this. Look at him while talking about the dialogue. It's just laughing
this
and
game
cringing.
where it's not how human beings talk to each other. Like, maybe
he's just smiling. It's
my
bad.
friends are just
It's
toxic,
laughably
but
bad.
like, if I'm telling my bro, like, yeah, I've just had a long, rough day, and I'm really stressed. Like, they're gonna slap me upside the head and be like, "Oh well, loser, figure it out."
Sucks to be you, my guy.
People don't talk to each other in this way. Like, I validate you and your experience. You are loved and appreciated. We can grow stronger together. Look at the bright side of life and the flowers.
Spot on it. The dialogue would be this monotone, and it doesn't have any weight to it.
Will bloom stronger. Like, nobody talks like this. I understand that maybe it's a healthy way to talk, but it's not real. Like, it doesn't feel legitimate.
It doesn't have any emotion at all. Like, if I can speak
Feels so, for lack of a better term, just like safe, and like they are anxious to say or do anything that could offend anybody in the party.
I think what happened with this game is when they are voice acting, they just phoned in people, and then the conversation that's happening between the two people, one of them is not even in the room. Like, they are not in the same place and having an active conversation. They just recorded from someone somewhere, and then they recorded from another person somewhere else, and then they just edited it together. That's how it looks like. This is such a cheap way to do a voice acting. Those two people that's having a conversation inside the game was not even really present in IRL while doing the voice acting. They are not even in the same conference call, dude. Like, think about that. They didn't even think about it, did that amount of effort. Just put those two people in conference call and then have them have that conversation. And it would be more natural than this disaster they come up with.
Even if,
can't you just do a Zoom call and then do the voice acting? Is it that hard to do?
They're just characters within this universe. Like, there will be characters that are doing bad things, that are putting people's lives in danger, and party members will just go,
and then you are just a goofy clown that tries to save the world being a clown. That's how it feels like.
interesting. It's like, no, you
Yeah.
should be freaking out. Or there's a dragon that flies over top and people are like, what was that? Instead of, holy crap, there's a goddamn dragon, everyone hide. Like, you'd think they'd be reacting like
Yeah.
that. It's just,
See, anyone
again,
can do
low energy. It feels
do
very
that.
low energy in the moment-to-moment gameplay,
Yeah.
in the moment-to-moment conversations, where everybody is just so careful and quiet and brooding and soft-spoken, and their accents are overwhelming.
They don't
It's
want
just
to be
kind of
there,
frustrating.
you know?
And when you add in like the dialogue choices not having much impact, because like Fallout 4, a lot of the
We are
dialogue
going to
basically whittles
slide.
down to 3 or 4 different ways to
Adventure.
say the same thing. You might have a sarcastic way of saying, yeah, let's just go do it. You might have a confident way of saying, let's just go do it, or kind of like a snarky way of saying it. But ultimately, you're just going to end up in the same position doing the same thing because that's what the game needs you to do. But listen, it's not all bad by any stretch of the imagination. The production value is very, very high. I think the combat, at least for now, is engaging enough. It certainly does get into the realm of like damage sponges, where there's just a lot of enemies that come on and you can tell they were like, okay, we got to slow the player down here, have a couple enemies come in. And so there's stuff like that. I haven't really gotten into the meat and potatoes of the companion conversations.
Oh, the damage
I've seen some
sponges in this
clips of
game
how
is
that can go
brutal.
later in the game, so I'm kind of braced for potentially some dry dialogue there or some cringe there, but we'll be buckled up for that when I eventually see it. And of course, I've seen the discussions about some of the more let's just say modern topics discussed in some companion quest lines here. I personally don't find that stuff compelling in the same way.
I personally find them amazing.
Like if I go out to dinner with a friend and they start rambling about how they're vegan, I'm like, cool, you do you. I don't see what this has to do with anything, but like whatever. In the same
I think the funny part is they do have an option that you just can say, I just want you functional. And then they just drop the topic completely. So you do have an option, but it does force you to go through that.
Same way that like if I'm playing a video game and a character, like I'm playing The Last of Us, and Joel starts monologuing about how he's gone vegan recently and eating nothing but mushrooms, like that's a little funny considering the cordyceps fungus, but like all in all, I don't really care that Joel is a vegan. Like it doesn't really matter to me. I'm more concerned with whether like the game is fun and engaging. So for me, like those quest lines, they may be annoying or just
we are more concerned about not getting Joel killed. We don't care about what's his preferences,
kind of not relatable, but they aren't deal breakers so long as the rest of the game is good. And so far, I think the game within Veilguard is good / fine in parts. There's parts I like, there's parts I don't like, and I hope that that picks up. Why
are you saying this game is fine? Like, I don't get it. Why do they say this game is fine? I think the game is just fine so far, at least. The game is super well optimized by PC. Great to see. Yeah, that's also my point. Game runs buttery smooth. Multiplayer origins of the level design, I have no idea what that is. In terms of role playing, it comes far further than old school Dragon Age. I'm not sure about that. That comparison makes no sense for me. Combat wise is definitely spongy at times. At times, it's most of the time. Once you go through the mid game, everything is just giga tank your ass. I don't think if it's bad, you spend it tweaking your build. Not tweaking your build, doing a shit side quest. You gotta do that in order to get stronger in this game. So yeah, fuck you. Loot makes a difference and the ability coordination is cool. Yes, that's true. In terms of writing, this is the weak point. This is the weak point. G and skill up right on their estimations. Absolutely, they are right. Anyone that actually talking to a human, just look at it and then say this writing is bad. All you need for tell all the qualification you need to tell this game's writing is bad is just having a conversation with another human being, even once in your life. That's all the qualification you need. Anyone can tell this game's writing is bad, dude.
And potentially it all just becomes stuff I like as I play more of it. But when it comes to those quest lines, I'm willing to ignore them or just kind of hand wave them aside if the rest of the game is good. But in terms of everything else, I thought that the production values are great. I thought the sound design is really, really good. Everything else, I thought that
look how cringy he's running.
The production values are great.
Look what he's doing, dude. This is just sad. And he was one of the best characters in the game. Watch this. What is that? Is he dancing with the guy? Dude, you have knives on your dress. Just use the knife to stab him. What are you doing? God.
Design. I like how they've structured everything. It's just surprising how it's much less of an RPG than it is like an action adventure game with some RPG mechanics. It almost feels, in terms of the role playing, similar to like Horizon Zero Dawn, where there's choices you make that are clearly meant to like point you and push you into a certain type of player or role, rather, but like it doesn't really do anything, like, you know, thumbs up or the clown mask or whatever, and then the stern option, kind of like Horizon Dawn with the hard and the different things they had there, but it all ends up kind of in the same space at the end of the day. So as long as you're not looking
pretty
for
much,
like, the super intense
the conversation don't change that much no matter what option
role play, I think you'll be fine. But again, I'm not super far in, so we'll keep an eye on it as time goes by. But all in all, I've been having a good time with it, playing throughout this afternoon. I'm going to keep playing it. You know, it's not something I'm looking for a refund for. I'm liking it. It's not my game of the year based on what I've tried so far. You know, Metaphor.
Oh my god, if this again even get nominated for that, the game of the year is a complete joke. Yeah, straight up. Like, I rather nominate a Metaphor, Silent Hill 2. What else is there? I mean, I'm not sure Final Fantasy 16 came this year. Like, those games, I even freaking nominate Elden Ring. Fuck it. Even though I fucking hated that game, Elden Ring DLC, just put it there. Fuck it. You know, I rather pick Elden Ring DLC than this, dude.
Or Fantasio still at the top of the list for me, but let me know, are you gonna be checking out the
Metaphor Fantasio is insane. Everybody, look at this guy. He also said Metaphor Fantasio is good. Because it is good.
At the top of the list. What I've tried so far, you know, Metaphor Fantasio still at the top of the list for me, but let me know, are you gonna be checking out
It's a good game, but it does have its flaws. I did point out its flaws, but it is a good game. Absolutely. Story just good. Straight up. I think you shouldn't get spoiled about that game's story and then play the game for its story, and you will not regret it. It is so good. Metaphor Fantasio and Final Fantasy 16, both of them are amazing.
The game yourself, you're going to be trying it. Are you going to be eating it up? Maybe not. Let me know. I mainly want to know if it's worth me doing like a review of the game, because
I think for me this game looks like complete trash because I played Metaphor Fantasy before this game and I beaten that game. Maybe that just improved my standards really high. Maybe that's why I just completely don't like this game or something. But even then, it's kind of the dialogue is worse than God of War, and I said God of War was made. You know.
It's like a 50-60 hour game, and to pour that much time into it, if I'm not loving it, it needs to be for like a review or something for me to justify it in my brain, because that's a whole lot of Metaphor Fantasio and Monster Hunter Beta that I could be playing. So I need you guys
this
to
game
say
is a 60-hour game. Oh god, please just. I think it's included the side quest, which I'm not.
You want me to do like a full breakdown and review and keep chugging along. Right now I'm having a good time, but I don't think I'd be heartbroken if you told me that I had to go play Metaphor instead. You know, it's one of those games. As for the review drama, I don't have a ton to add to all of that. I was told we were going to get a review code Then they ghosted us and didn't reply. And we only heard from them like 2-3 days before the review embargo when they said we weren't getting a code. And I still don't know why. I don't know if they even know why. After that, we were told we could probably look forward to a early access code, maybe on like the day before launch, to just give the game a shot and share it with our audience and get a video done ahead of time. But that never came. They ghosted us once again. Maybe we were on a list and then taken off the list. I don't know. But the whole review process has been a bit of a debacle, unnecessarily so, I would say. I don't know why they've shot themselves in the foot so much with this, but that seems to be what happened. Nobody's entitled to a review code. Like I said earlier, me not getting a review code didn't really matter to me because it's just meant that I could play more Monster Hunter beta and I could play more Metaphor. So I've not been that upset.
That way I can play a better game.
But I do think it's bizarre that they have been so cagey about it and they've not wanted to be clear with what's really going on or what the motivation was. It just feels like they were trying to hide something. Whether or not that's true, I don't know, but it feels like they were trying to very carefully select reviewers, and that's just unfortunate because you'd hope that they just send it to everybody to get the most accurate depiction of the game. But I guess in some cases that's not what happens. So I don't have a lot to add there. It's just disappointing to see the way that they handled it, and I hope that they handle it differently in the future. But what are you gonna do? But anyway, it is Halloween. I am going to go and trick or treat with my 2 boys.
Is that a Samsung Galaxy?
You have a wonderful night. You're probably seeing this the day after. But I appreciate all of you.
Yo,
good
video.
Yourself.
I think he's still to be more criticizing.
I'll be looking at those comments to see if I should make
he told us most as nicest thing possible about
Dragon
the game.
Age. So let me know. With all that said, thank you for watching. I love you all desperately. Hugs and kisses. Bye-bye.
Nice video. Like, he still didn't say the things as it is. That's what I think. Like, he still didn't do the game justice. You know, you gotta do that thing. You gotta say it as it is. You know, I will do it in my review. I don't